Okay, so I'm going to make a start. You will see, you probably all know this, but you'll see I've got the image, my Sparkly Seas image of Kynance Cove in Cornwall, upside down, just to start with. The reason I do this, as always, is just to try and see those tones, just to try and see what they actually are rather than interpret them. So those cliffs over there, in my photograph, they look really dark, quite black. If I look at it upside down, it's easier to see that this colour here really isn't black. If you look at the black of the paintbrush there against the colour of the cliffs, it's really quite a light blue colour. Okay, so I'm going to start. I've got a Rosemary & Co. short flat there, which will do perfectly. Get a little bit of solvent. And this is the bit where I really feel I don't know what I'm doing at all. You may be pleased to know. So I'm going to go for the background land. So a little bit of ultramarine there. Again, when I send out the notes in the video afterwards, I'll detail all that I used. So let's just keep it nice and thin at this stage. Bit of purple and then touch of white so I can see the colour, and a touch of umber just to take the vibrance out of that blue. I've just glanced at the chat and I can see that nothing's going wrong. So hopefully we're all good. Let's stick a bit more blue back in there. Okay, have a look at that. So I get the paint on my brush and then I hold it up and just check I'm in the right kind of ballpark. That's about right, I think. So off we go. I'm not going to do the whole thing upside down as ever. Might be a bit grey, but this is a thin stage of the painting, so it doesn't matter too much. I'm just going to sketch out the main elements. Let's find halfway. Halfway's about there, so got my rock in about the right place. Every now and again, I'm afraid, you may well hear these really squeaky baby birds that are nesting in my roof. I'm really sorry. It's the best place for me to paint and film, and I can't really do anything about it. Okay, I think that rock might be a little bit big, but there we go. Pop that in there. Kynance Cove in Cornwall is just one of the most spectacular places you can go in Britain, I think. It's absolutely gorgeous. Okay, bit of rock there. All very thin. That yellow's from where I dropped my canvas in the paint earlier. Okay, sketching it out. And then a bit of vague idea of land there. Now let's just get a touch more tone. Bit of umber, bit of blue, ultramarine blue. It's actually a little bit dark. Some of that white. So you see I'm mixing block colours. Means I'm in control of what's going on the canvas here. I don't have any happy accidents with the paint mix, only with the brush strokes. All right, let's turn it the right way up. I've got enough. But it's helped me, even just doing that first bit helps you to see something different in the image. Okay, let's go back to that background again. I want to put a touch more purple in there. Yeah. go. This is oil tonight, by the way, not acrylic. And this short flat is a size 8. And I'm using oils with a touch of Zest-It solvent. Just keeping it very thin, scrubbing it on with this short flat brush. All very messy at the moment, but it's thin and I'll be cutting into these shapes later on with the sea. So even at this point, you might notice I start to do a bit of directional brushwork. And by that I mean the way I can see the cliffs are shaped, I'm actually just going, I'm sort of using the brush to put those angles in. It's subtle, it doesn't look subtle now, but it is, and later it will make a lot of difference. But in a very background sort of way. So I added a little bit of green in there. Don't know if you can hear my baby birds. They're going mad right now. I think they're starlings. Okay, as I come forward, as the rocks get nearer, the colour gets a little bit more, a little darker, a little bit more vibrant. I'm using umber, blue, touch of purple, and occasionally a little bit of that sap green over there, over this side. On the rocks out to sea, it's more blue. Touch of white in there. Those directional brush strokes, they add to the sense of movement at the end of your painting. Just help move the eye around. Okay, this looks like blobs probably, but I can see it's coming together. Okay, let's get some of those darker rocks, bit more umber, bit more blue. How are we doing there? Yeah, I think get away with that. That bit of rock there, perhaps even in there. Less light bouncing around on the cliffs on the land, so you can go a little bit darker. Let's shape these in. I always do the object, the heaviest object first, so that the land, I stick that in before anything else, and then pop the sea on around it. Just makes sense to me, because the sea is lapping up to everything. You put it on first and the objects can look a bit superimposed. Okay, let's start on a bit of that. Well, I'm in no rush. If I could only remember that. I'm in no rush. Let's put a bit of shadow over there. Try not to miss things out as I go along. Stick with this brush and we'll go to the background. Now what's that colour over there? Let's start with a touch of yellow, why not? Bit of white. It's of course nothing like it, but this is just my way of working out how you get a colour. So yellow, green, red, and then let's make a start with that. Yeah, see, so it's very vibrant against the rocks. So to dull it down, I will get the opposite colour, which is a bit of blue. It's still orange, but it's now taken the vibrance out. A bit of white as well, it's just a bit too dark. Now we're getting there now. Actually, that's looking more like that there. Let's stick it in when we got it. A bit more green in there, I can add that in a minute. Put a little base in. Okay, touch more white, grab some of that purple. I just want quite a neutral grey for the background. It looks like a bit more blue. Let's try that. See, you look at those distant cliffs and think, oh, the green grass over there. And of course, the colours are so desaturated because they're distant. It's a good way of getting depth. Okay, go back to that, stick a bit more of that orange in. Touch of the sap green there, just up to the saturation. And on that goes. What's going on down here? So as it comes into this area, it all gets a bit, again, desaturated because of the light. So I've just put a tiny bit of that cold green and white in there. That's a bit better. Tiny differences, but when you're trying to paint sparkly light, those tiny subtle differences are everything. Now I can see a bit of pink there in the rocks. I think it's a little bit lighter than that. Let's just stick that on. Bit of scribble, it's distant rock, it doesn't need drawing in, just the vague. I get the light placement right, and that's the main thing. And the light is all on it's coming from above and slightly to the left, so keeping that in mind. That rock down there, bit of a line of light there. Going over that. Right, what am I doing? I'm going over to this side here, where it is a little bit greener. Perhaps a touch of blue, ultramarine. Whenever I say blue, I mean ultramarine. If I want to use phthalo, I will tell you. Okay, so I've just blued a bit of that grey-green there. There we go. All right, I can see it's coming together. Just wash that off. Oh no, I'll do that. I'll do that bit of grass on the right, the left even. Not far off from what I already had. Only today someone was asking me, what advice would you give yourself, 20 years ago? And I said, the main thing is I tell myself not to rush. It's just so difficult. I just rush things. Right, there we go. Very similar to what we already had. And then again, a bit more neutral behind, a bit cooler. And there's really not much on that rock at all. I will go back to that when I do the sea, I think. Very subtle. Okay. Sea, the exciting bit. The reason you're probably watching. Well, I'm going to do the beach first, sorry. Okay, red and umber. There's a start, nothing like it, but I can see those tones in there. So I want to dull that down. Stick the opposite colour in, bit of green. Oh, it's colder than that. Get some of that ultramarine. Touch of white. How are we doing? Lost my pink. Let's do that all over again. Touch to purple, so that little bit of that umber in, and I think we're there. Yep, there we go. And the only way I do this is by doing what you can see me doing. It's just checking the paint on my brush, having the best go, and then checking the paint on my brush against the image or what I'm painting outside. Tonally, I'm not too bothered if it's not identical. Just needs to be the same sort of temperature, same sort of vibrance. Okay. Unexpected colour of a beach. Right, let's put some highlights on this rock here. They are not dissimilar to that colour. Perhaps just a little bit lighter and a little bit cooler. It's tempting with rocks when you see highlights on them to put white on. But if you do that, it looks like water. It doesn't look right. The only white highlights we'll see are where the water is reflecting the direct sun. So there might be a few little marks, but not much. Okay, and over on there, perhaps a little bit lighter. Yep. There we go. Hope you can hear me all right. I sometimes go into muttering when I'm concentrating. I'm trying not to do that. All right, there, we've made it to the sea. And I am still going to carry on using this size 8 flat brush. Right, I'm going to go to the background. What have I got down here? I have got, let's go with ultramarine first. Touch of turquoise, unusual colour for me, and then a bit of white. So that's the blue sea that we think of, isn't it? But obviously that's not really anything like that colour there. Always worth checking your sea colour. So I'll put some more white in, but I can see even a touch of purple, a bit more ultramarine, a cooler blue. Even a little bit of, let's just try a little bit of phthalo green. How are we doing there? It's still too vibrant. So I don't want to add much, but I do want to dull that colour. I'm going to just add a little bit of this green over here. See what happens. So now the birds have stopped, but I can hear my cat trying to get in the room again. I'm very sorry about my animals. Okay. Okay, there's my blue. No, it's still not right. Get some of this purple. I'm just trying to make a distant grey. There we go. Got a slight bit of purple, bit more white. Ready. These things honestly make every difference. It is worth boring people while you mix the colours. Okay, now obviously over there things changed to the left, so I don't want to do too much more in that tone. So I leave that little mix there. And let's add a bit of those grayer highlights over there so I can see a touch of purple. Yeah, purple and white added to that. Cutting out around that land, keeping it nice and loose. It's in the distance. We don't need it. We don't need detail. It'll flatten the depth out. Okay, I'm going to leave that bit till later. All right, so down here, a little bit of sap green. Let's see what happens with that. Yep, that looks good. Possibly a bit of purple in there to dull it. Yeah, there we go. Nice and light. So the way I do these sparkles is by painting what's underneath. And quite thin colour. But if I did all the white first, it would end up just looking like floating polystyrene, I think. Doing it this way, I can add the highlights on top. I'm looking at the colour that's behind the highlights, effectively. Okay, now as it comes forward, a little bit more of those colours. So let's stick a touch of phthalo. I want to add phthalo in, I don't think it's right yet. Get some of that purple again that I had there. Just greying it, maybe a bit of ultramarine. You can see it's getting deeper and darker. Very subtle. I did actually sit in this place where I took the photo and paint this view, and it's just glorious. So I've just added a touch of sap green as I'm going along to the right there. Potentially going to stick a bit of umber in it. It's the reflection of this land here and the colour of the seabed underneath. All right, even more umber. Wasn't really expecting that. I'm just following my nose with the mixes. There we go. What an interesting colour. And then, oh, it's almost purple up there. Stick a bit of umber and purple into that mix. I love painting into the light like this. It's just so satisfying. Spotting those little subtle changes. All right. Let's get some green again. Bit of phthalo. Bit of sap, bit of white, bit of umber. Just want to, some random purple. That's better. Just fill that in there a touch. And then down this comes. And it starts to get a bit bluer, I think. So, touch of sap green, touch of ultramarine into the mix. Yep. Touch more blue. I know I put that phthalo turquoise or whatever it was out, and I'm not using it. It's funny. Not what you think it's going to be. All right, keeping it very thin. It's a lovely sort of green area down here, but strangely I'm using sap green and blue to get to it. Okay. Remember I said about those directional brush strokes? Do the same with the sea. Where you see the movement, the wavelets, the way the sea is pushing into the shore, use the brush strokes to describe that. Just loosely, but it adds that movement in beautifully. So at the moment I'm painting the shadow in the water, whoops, with my messy brush. Now these colours down here are a bit darker. Let's figure out what they are. I think a touch of blue. And again, a touch of umber. So think suggestion, think loose, but wisely. Because every brushstroke counts, it's saying something. Okay, we get a bit greener out there maybe. Cold green, stick some ultramarine and sap green and whites. I think. Just a few of those little wavelets. And then over here is key to the light. It's all getting much lighter. Stick some white and ultramarine blue in there. And on it goes. Now that little change there is hopefully going to make the sparkles look like light. Because the thing with sparkles is you have to think about two things, what they are and how they're affecting what's around them. So they're the direct, no, that's no good. Let's put some blue in there. They're the direct reflection of the sun. And that kind of vibrance will have a strong effect on whatever's around it. All right, there's a soft, gentle kind of mix going on there. I'm not sure why I left this gap here. Why would I do that? Let's just go and fill it in. That seems to be around about right, luckily. It's just rushing again. And then let's put this bit of land in rather than leave a white triangle. It's a slightly irrelevant bit of land, but it does help the composition. So just gone for a bit of red and yellow, I think there. Touch of green, touch of umber. Just want a heavy sort of tone, sticking it in the foreground, but it's only for the composition, just to help move your eye around the image. Touch of red and white. And perhaps, oh, that'll do. Now let's go and stick that sky in. Go for white. But what colour is that? We don't want white, because if I put a white sky in, it'll stop all this light on the water looking like light. So it needs to be a bit dulled. Let's have a touch of ultramarine. And perhaps a little bit of purple, I think. Yeah, that'll do. Get rid of my random yellow over there. And on that goes, and then cuts out the headland. And along there. Okay. So all that colour work is now coming together. It's starting to look, it's got a context now. So before we go to the highlights, I want to get the waves in. The waves look white, but if we do white waves, it won't look different to the sparkles. So I think the waves are not dissimilar to that sky. I think that'll do. So using my size 8 brush, a little bit thicker, but still moving around the solvent on my brush. And then using perhaps the corner of it, just think about the quality of that foam, what it's doing, and sweep it on. And yeah, similar over there, I think. Seem to have missed a rock out over there. Oh well. It's got a nice shadow on it though, so I don't know, I might go and put that in. Just light, drag it in the way that it's going. Up the rocks there, crashing on top, spilling over. Think of those things as you paint. It makes a difference to your brush strokes. Not too much. Just enough to say what we want it to say. Going up the beach there. And over here, it's whiter, but again, don't want it to compete. Let's just go and stick a similar version in, see if we can get away with that. It's further away, so brush strokes should be softer, more amorphous. Okay, a little bit around there, just some nice soft surf. And since I've got this on my brush, I'll just pop a few blobs on. They're not my brightest blobs, but because they're a different brush stroke and texture, they look like the light rather than the waves. Just some slightly flat blobs. A little bit over there, make it the same sea. Okay, now let's go for the highlights. So I'm going to change my brush. I'm going to use, I've got this Rosemary Eclipse Coma. I don't work for Rosemary, by the way. I was just given a load of brushes by her recently. It was great, from a friend. So this is a 1/2 inch coma, and the thing about the comas is they're really soft, so they place the paint quite nicely. Let me just clear a space for my whites here. I don't think everyone does this with oils, but I think it's a leftover habit from using acrylics. Okay, let's go and get some white. A nice bit of clean white. I'm going to get a little bit of clear painting medium, Zestic clear painting medium. Thins it without, it keeps the viscosity. All right, and I don't want that to be pure white, so I'm going to stick a tiny little bit of lemon yellow in there. And a tiny little bit of red. And this is for the highlight at the back. You can't see those, can you? It doesn't look pink or yellow, but it will be just enough to stand out against the much brighter version over here. Okay, and on this goes, not much different to the board really. cut that in. If it muddies with the paint underneath, just go back, get more on your brush. A few little down strokes, looks like distance on the water. Okay. And then perhaps just a few suggestions of sparkles over here. Not too much, don't want to bring it forward, it's far away. Okay, they might be a little bit big actually, we'll see. All right, and then in we go here. Just really looking at the shapes of these blobs. They're not all round, they're amorphous, they're different. Some are bigger, some are tiny. It's my first layer of highlights. I'm going to build them up as I go. So I used that brush, but I'm thinking I'm going to try my filbert now. I think I want a bit more strength to the brush actually. It was good for that bit there. So tiny bit of lemon yellow in this white. Oh, not that much. Not that much. And enough medium so it's nice and flowy. So it doesn't pick up too much paint. Okay. And then you see all the light blobs, they're sort of facing the sun, left. It's the wave faces facing the sun. So put them on accordingly at that angle. Not all of them, but just generally helps the sense of real light, that illusion. So there's big shapes I'm putting over there. You can get away with it because it's far away. Just cutting out various bits and pieces with the light. A few nice blobs of light around here. Down here. With light sparkles, it's not really a case of less is more. If you do too few, it doesn't look quite as real. Over here. Okay, getting there. Just a few little marks, little wavelet marks there. And then I think I want to just do a little bit of rigger work in the same tone. So light, nice and flowy. Just a bit of noise. Riggers are quite good at noise. They can put in our tiny little bits and pieces and just remind you that it's a moving surface. It's not a static thing that you're painting. There's a few highlights in the waves. And then with this, I'm going to add just a few grey highlights to that rock. This rock is the main, that's the point of interest for me. Let's stick a bit of purple, touch of blue. Just want a light grey, bit of medium. I don't want to draw too much. It's so tempting to start picking too much out. I only want detail where it counts. So the eye is drawn where I want it to be. Touch more white in there for those rocks. Make sense of it. And down there. It's a little lip on the edge of this to show it's being affected by the sun. Again, over there. Looser. I'm doing what I said I wouldn't do. As soon as you get a drawing implement out, it's so difficult. Perhaps let's just put, as a final thing, a little bit of dark in to those rocks down here. I think it's just going to make those highlights sing a little bit more. So, touch of purple, touch of the opposite green, cool it down with a blue. That is very dark. A hint of white in there. I think that, no, that's too dark, Jenny. I did a demo once. Mostly I didn't get complaints, but I did a demo once and someone said the mixing was a bit boring. I just thought, oh no, I really need to speed up my mixing. Okay. Well, is that too dark? Just want to kind of have something for those highlights to sing off, really. I think I can get away with that. Also, in here, something, I don't want to draw the eye too much, but it's just a bit nondescript at the moment, so there we go. Thank you very much for watching.